All right. And so again, welcome this morning to Kickstart Your Job or Internship Search. This is a toolkit workshop hosted by SuccessWorks. My name is Beth Carabin. I am one of the career and internship specialists at SuccessWorks, and my career community is the business and entrepreneurship space. So my colleagues are here to answer specific questions that you might have about anything related to careers or job searching or internships or all of that stuff. Today, we are, of course, talking about job searching. Just some guidelines for this workshop for starters here. This is going to be a really fast workshop. We're scheduled for half an hour, and I'm going to try to hold to that as much as we can. To that end, remember that this is just an overview. Everything we talk about today is just designed to kind of get you started in your job search. There's, of course, a lot more information, much deeper than what we talk about today, but this will get you started at least. I will also be sending out a resources document at the end, so stay tuned near the end of the presentation for that. And I will also send that out in an email following up. So that'll give you some other places to take the information we talk about today and expand it. In the chat, we will be using a worksheet document, which you can go along with on your computer. Notes or kind of have that on hand. If you also have follow-up questions from this workshop, you can always come make an appointment with myself or my colleagues, the career specialists at SuccessWorks. The comments and questions will be chat only because we're moving really quickly. I'd like to try to minimize turning microphones on and off. So if you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat and I will respond to it in line when it comes up. We talked about the worksheet, so let's go ahead and get started here. So everyone needs to job search. So let's talk a little bit about the reality of what that means. Jobs, when I say job in this presentation, by the way, I mean jobs and internships. The strategies you use for both are very similar. And so if I say just job, I'm not misspeaking, I'm talking about both. So the reality of the job searching process, it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. There's a lot of rejection that goes into job searching. Very often we do not get all of the jobs that we apply to. We do not get all the jobs we interview for, but that does not mean that you don't have to do it, because everybody needs to do this to get a job. But what we're going to talk about today are some strategies to kind of help you maximize your the effort you put in and really be okay with the searches that you're doing. Because job searching, so much of this is out of your control. You get to decide what your resume looks like, your cover letter, what kinds of jobs you apply to, but you don't get to control who else applies, what the needs of the company are, what their budgets are, their scheduling. So you got to be a little bit comfortable with some uncertainty. Control the things that you can and learn to weather and plan ahead for things that you cannot. That's a big part of kind of being okay with this strange place of job searching, where there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty in this. The best part about job searching at this point, though, is that the skills you learn today are going to be useful forever. You will use these skills to find your first internship, find your first job outside of school, but then you're also going to use these for every job, every move that you make for your career. 10 years down the line, you're still going to need to use these strategies to help look for that next job. And your standards and search criteria change every time, but the skills do not. So if you can ace these things now, you'll be better off kind of moving forward. Another thing to keep in mind is that careers are stepping stones. It's not a ladder. It's not a straight line. Often because we're used to thinking of majors and classes as, there's a prereq for this, so I can get into this class, so I can get into this other class. Jobs are a little more fluid than that. So when you're job searching, it's important to have a little bit of flexibility in what you're looking for and kind of what your targets are. We'll discuss that a little more as further on in the presentation, but for now, just keep in mind that the path to your end goal might be a little bit of a roundabout one. But if you know where you want to go, that's the most important thing to keep in mind, because that will get you there eventually. All right, so how do we begin job searching? And this is where the worksheet picks up if you're taking notes. So step one is, what kind of job do you want? This is a really big question. So first of all, take a deep breath. You don't have to have a final answer right now, but we do need to have a starting point. If you aren't sure what kinds of jobs you're interested in, the Career Exploration Center is a great place to kind of really explore that question a bit more, to really dig into the things that are important to you, the things that you enjoy learning about and studying and doing. We're not going to talk about that today. So for this purposes, again, just beginning your job search, got to have a place to start. Good places to start here are some ideas on this page here. Your major is a really good place to start. If you're a finance major, if you're a biology major, just type the word biology or finance into the search engines of a job board site, which we'll talk about in a second, and see what comes up. Your dream job could be a item to look for too, or a job that at least interests you. If you heard the title once and think it sounds cool, a keyword, maybe if you're interested in copywriting, that's a good keyword. You maybe don't know what the title is just yet, but you got to have some place to start. So copywriting is good. Or, technology or industries that interest you. Again, this is just a starting point. And this word that we're choosing right now is not going to be where we stop. So on your sheet, you can kind of write down some ideas, just brainstorm before we go any further. If you have questions about this, please, you can definitely drop chat questions in the chat. Again, there are no wrong answers here. This is just giving us that starting point. Step two, take that keyword and find some jobs to apply to. I mentioned job boards in the last slide. Handshake is a really good place to start your job search because it is curated and maintained for students. Everything on Handshake needs to be approved by someone at UW. So you're not going to find shady jobs. You're not going to find jobs that you're way underqualified for, that are looking for like 10 plus years experience. So Handshake is a really good place to begin the research that goes into finding jobs. What am I qualified for? What could I be qualified for 3 years from now? That stuff is all going to be on Handshake. When you go into Handshake, there are tutorials on how to use Handshake on SuccessWorks' website and on the resource document, so I won't go into that today. Type your keywords that you brainstorm from step one into those search bars, one at a time. And you can try them in different combinations too. Those search bars on the job sites are asking you for a word, any word, that it will then go and look on all the job postings that it has for that word. If you type the word marketing in, it's going to look through the titles, the job content, the required skills, maybe even the company title, and it's going to pull anything that gives you the word marketing. So it's going to give you a really broad result, sort of kind of combination of results. And if you want to narrow it down, if you're not happy with the results, maybe try marketing and copywriting, or biology and genetics. If biology is too big, genetics will help narrow it down. The more words you put in, the more the search engine is going to narrow your options down. It's going to say, okay, you want a job with biology and genetics. I'll look for those now. And you'll see your search results get smaller. This is a good strategy for kind of giving you a manageable search result. If you type in just the word marketing, you might get 400 jobs to apply for, and half of them aren't going to be applicable. So adding those keywords in will help it narrow down to give you something that's a little more manageable to search through. You can also bookmark jobs that interest you. So if you're not quite ready to apply for jobs, but you're curious about what's out there, bookmark the ones that interest you on Handshake. You can see the little image and it shows you how. You can always come back to them that way and either look at them to get more ideas or to go back and apply later on. As you do, the reason I mentioned this is a good place to do research is because you might not know kind of how to phrase your resume or to write your cover letter for the jobs you're interested in. If you read these job descriptions, this gives you as close to a primary research source as you can. These are real jobs hiring somebody right now. So everything that's on that job description is the employer straight up telling you, I need this list of skills. If you're not ready to apply for jobs, that list of skills can give you some ideas about what classes to take, what technology to study, what to educate yourself on in order to be ready for the jobs. So researching and applying kind of go hand in hand at this point, and you can use Handshake for both. How long do we have access to Handshake after we graduate from the chat? As long as you have your WISC ID, you can get into Handshake. So you can use the boards. The jobs posted on there will become less relevant over time as you get more experience, but you can keep using Handshake and you can keep signing up for events and things there too. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Job searching do's and don'ts. So we talked about some of these a little bit already. You want to don't just limit yourself to obvious terms. If you're an English major and you just search for the word English, well, for starters, you're going to get anything that asks for like fluency in English, which is maybe not what you want, because those, maybe you do want jobs that are fluency in English, but that search phrase is very general. You can use it as a starting point, but do get creative with the terms you're using and the additional search terms that you're putting in there. Again, English and copywriting or English and research is going to pull a lot more jobs that are a lot more applicable to what you want. And if you stop with just your major or just a job title, you're limiting yourself. The problem with job titles too is if you search for a research associate position, well, that's a fine title. That's a real title that shows up a lot and is pretty general. So you'd hit on a lot of different kinds of things. The problem is that not every job might call itself a research associate. Maybe some companies are really big into giving creative or fun names for things. So some company might call their research associate an investigation expert. Well, you would never find that job if all you're searching for is research associate. So think about synonyms that you can use to really challenge the search engine to get at what you want it to show you, but from different directions. Job descriptions are infinite. They're written by many, many, many people across the world. So you got to try to think like they do when they are writing their job descriptions. So use those keywords and be creative about them. I also recommend that students keep an open mind, especially for your first internship or job. We often have ideas about what we want to do for our dream jobs, do marketing at Nike, and that's all I want to do. And that's great. But Nike is very competitive and you might not be able to get into Nike on your first try or your first internship. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but what it means is that if you recall the stepping stone example, it might be that Nike will be your second or third job out of college because the opportunities you take in the meantime build up that skill so that when you apply for Nike, you're really impressive. That roundabout path is something to always keep in mind while you're job searching. You might read something, write a job description and say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work for this company. But think about what opportunities it could open for you if you put in a year at this company, if you really put the effort into building your experience there. Your path to your end goal might surprise you in how it approaches. And so if you rule things out now, you won't even get to apply. You won't even get to ask those questions. So be open-minded. Step 3, build a resume. If you don't have a resume yet, you're going to need a resume to apply for jobs. There are a lot of resources on SuccessWorks' website about how to write resumes. And there's even a Canvas course if you need help step by step. So we're not going to go into that right now. The important thing with the resume to keep in mind for job searching, if you've done your research into the kinds of jobs you're interested in, you will be able to use that language to mirror your resume to those positions so that when someone reads your resume, the words you use will echo their job description and it'll look like a great fit. And you'll be really making sure that they see the vision of who you are on that resume. Resumes have certain guidelines you need to adhere to: font size, margin size, format, bullet points, etc. But beyond that, you get to determine how your resume reads, what the tone is, and what you want someone to know about you. So take that opportunity and use the research you do from the job searching to really help augment your resume to make it just scream that you are the right candidate for the kinds of positions you want. And if you want help on this, SuccessWorks is always available to help. Step 4, apply. We've done our research. We've written a resume. Maybe we've written a cover letter, which there's also information on SuccessWorks' site about. But before you apply for a job, it's a good idea to do a little bit of research on the company. At the very least, you want to make sure that it's legit, that it's a company that you actually want to work for. Are their values in line with yours? Do they have things that you don't want to deal with at the company? Maybe if they, a classic example that I've heard of is some people are opposed to like animal testing on biology products. If that's something that bothers you, you want to know about that before you apply. You can also find out a little more about what the company does so that, again, you can customize your resume and your cover letter for each application. This is a lot of pre-work. The thing I would tell you that boils down to is just apply. If you don't have time to do the research, if you don't have time to customize your resume, that's okay. Get the resume in, especially if the deadline is approaching. It's better to get anything in front of the hiring manager than to not have them see your resume at all in many cases. So if you're thinking ahead about these things, you will be able to do a little bit of that prep work, but don't be afraid to just, if you have a good copy of your resume, you can trust it to carry on its own, just send it in. I like this Office quote. If I have Office fans in here, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, said Wayne Gretzky, quoted by Michael Scott. That is actually something that Wayne Gretzky, a great hockey player, once said. So and it's still very true. If you don't apply, they can't interview you and they can't consider you. Often one of the major big questions I get from students is, do I really have to customize my resume and my cover letter for every job? The answer is yes and no. You know, the goal is to apply for as many jobs as you can, but still having the resumes and the cover letters be the best example of who you are and why you're qualified. So you got to kind of balance the time you're spending, because you also have things outside of job searching to deal with. I like to recommend what I call like a bullseye method, which you can see the image here to the side. If your dream job is marketing at Nike, your ideal job is that red target in the center. And for that job that you really want more than anything, that's one that you're probably going to want to spend a lot of time on. You'll want to make sure that you customize your cover letter to make it abundantly clear to the hiring manager that Nike is your dream company. This is where you belong. You might do some networking to support that, do a little bit of research, really understand what their business is about now, so that when you write your cover letter and your resume, it's zeros right in on that job. However, there are a lot of jobs outside of that, like we talked about with the stepping stone method. There are other kind of avenues of approach here. So the closer to that middle circle, the next ring out will be your target job, but maybe in a different industry. Maybe you do marketing for another clothing company that isn't Nike. The yellow circle, maybe it's working in clothing, but it's a different kind of position that will still get you exposure to marketing in a clothing industry, even if it's not direct marketing. And then that outside ring are things that could help contribute toward either of those goals, marketing and sports clothing. You want to apply for everything in that circle. But the closer, the further that the job is from that target job, spend a little bit less time on it. Maybe don't do the extensive research for the jobs in the yellow ring, or maybe you don't have to do the networking for the companies in that orange ring. As long as you get your resume in front of them, it's sufficient. You know your schedule. You know your bandwidth, your mental capacity to deal with this. We're all dealing with a lot of stress right now. So the important thing with the job searching is to do what you can, and above all, get the resume in. Again, if they don't have the resume, they can't consider you. You just get to decide how much time you spend on this process outside of that. Any questions at this point? I'll pause really quick just to see if anyone has any questions. All right. Step 5, don't stop. Don't, once you apply for a job, you're not done. You're not done until you actually show up at the job. Or do the interview, really get the job offer. So one question I often get is, how many jobs should I apply for? As many as it takes. Could be that you apply to 3 jobs and you are one of those fortunate people that all 3 get back to you and give you a job offer. That's amazing if that happens, for starters. It means you did a great job targeting your resume and looking for jobs that match you. More likely, it's going to take 25, 50, 100 applications. Depends heavily on your field and how specific you're being. This is where that casting a wide net, having a broad mind about what you look for really comes in handy, because if you're very specific and you only see 25 jobs out there that you really want, and you apply for those 25 jobs, if you don't get those 25 jobs, then what? If you can cast a wider net and really kind of get some backup options in consideration, then you're going to have more options when it comes time to interview and to ideally accept jobs. Job searching can take a lot of time, though. One thing you'll also find when you're on these websites is if you run your search terms and you find the jobs that you want to apply for and you send out all your applications, well, jobs don't change overly frequently. Sometimes a year they do, but often what you'll find is it's the same jobs over and over again. That's where the keyword searching comes in handy. And that's where budgeting your time and not throwing 100% of yourself into this job search right now can be helpful. What I like to recommend is that students treat job searching not as a full-time job, something that you have to do for 8 hours a day if you're on summer break or what have you. Spend anywhere from 1 to 5 hours a day, 5 maybe a much. Once you get started, you might spend an hour a day seeing what's new posted on the boards, sending in your applications, and then stepping away and doing other things. So you're not just running through the same jobs that you've already applied for over and over again. Job searching can be an infinite process. There are always more jobs out there. You can always widen your search range. You get to decide where that pivot point is. Where does it stop that these are jobs I no longer want to apply for? If you're reaching that point, pause, come back tomorrow, see what else is new. There are ways to set up saved searches on Handshake too, where it will send you updated jobs every time something posts. So you don't even have to go to the site. It will automatically say, hey, you're interested in chemistry positions in an industrial engineering setting. Here's the 4 new jobs that just got posted. Check them out. In that sense, job searching is an endurance trial. It's a marathon. And when you begin a marathon, if you are thinking about all of those miles between you and the finish line, that's a lot. It's overwhelming. So it really does help with a job search to break your run into stages. Set weekly goals for yourself, daily goals if you need to, and celebrate those small successes, because they will build up over time with more applications, more interviews, more offers, and an internship or a job at the end. This kind of touches on what we were just talking about with long-term search strategies. It's good to set those shorter term goals. I also recommend tracking your applications. If you, even something as simple as just an Excel spreadsheet, just noting what you applied to, where you applied to it, a link to the job description if you can get one, if you can save it on there, sometimes they expire. And the last time you heard from that company. If you do this tracking, it'll help you kind of manage that marathon aspect of this. Maybe you only set yourself just to do 5 applications a week. If you do that for 5 weeks, you're going to have a lot of applications in your tracker, and you will have done work, even though it feels like you didn't spend a ton of time. That's working smarter, not harder, I guess is the phrase that might be applying to this. I really strongly discourage people from dumping all of your time into job searching. Again, if you're home on break, if you are spending all of your free time job searching, you're going to burn out. It doesn't really work like that. It's more of a long-term sustained thing. So if you're spending 8 hours a day running the same searches, you're going to get demoralized. You're going to feel like there aren't jobs out there, when really the answer is that the job for you might be posted tomorrow or next week. And if you are constantly checking every day, even just for a little bit, you will catch that job without burning yourself out of 8 hours a day. The important thing too is do not give up. Job searching can feel really exhausting because you might apply for 200 jobs and get no responses, and that's really frustrating. However, if you don't apply, you won't get the job. So you've got to just keep pushing forward. And these long-term strategies for managing your time and your mental health regarding this will really make it so that you don't burn out as soon as, you won't burn out over a long time. And that's really one of the key things here. If you're stuck, if you've sent out 200 applications and you're not getting any feedback, ask for help. It really helps to talk to people about your job search, what you found successful, what you found isn't working. You have a lot of people to lean on, and I would tell you to talk to all of them. You'll get different information from SuccessWorks, from academic advisors, professors, classmates, alumni, experts in the field, friends or family. All the information will give you different ideas, different inspiration, just like you were doing the research on job descriptions to find new ideas for job searching for different keywords. Talking to your support network and your friends, your brain trust of experts in this field will give you new inspiration to kind of re-tackle the search and try new things and make it so that you have something new to try when you do not let yourself stop. Some selected resources here. SuccessWorks has a lot of resources to this end. On our website, you will find more information about everything we talked about here, from resume writing, cover letters, networking, job searching. There's also a compiled resources document that is attached in the chat here. This will give you some ideas to other places to look for job resources, both on SuccessWorks and other sources. I promise this is the final takeaway. Again, this workshop is just the beginning. Depending on how much time and effort you have to dedicate to this right now, at the very least, send a basic resume and cover letter to as many jobs as you can. I call that the scatter shot method. You're just trying to hit everything you can as quickly as possible. Intermediate level, if you have a little more time to dedicate to this, research the companies and alumni profiles to really tailor your information so that when you're sending it down to hiring managers, they are seeing that you did the research. It reflects in the way that you write your information. This requires a little more time, but is worth it to really show that effort. Advanced job searching, again, is spending a lot of time doing this and attacking in different ways, not just running over the boards over and over and over again. Augment your searching with networking. Reach out to employers and alumni to really understand what this industry is about. How can you maximize your application, maximize your cover letter and your resume? What tips do people have about applying for jobs? What really makes people stand out in these areas? If you have the time to do that additional research, that's a really great thing to do, especially if you're interested in a high competition field. The more you can prove that you know what you're talking about, the more people looking at your information will respond positively to you. But again, above all, you are busy students, and job searching can be really frustrating. Cut yourself some slack. If you're getting frustrated, if you feel like you've done everything you can today, allow yourself the permission to go take a walk or to go watch an episode of TV or make yourself some dinner or something like that, because job searching is something you got to do every day. Not for a long time every day, a little bit every day will get you to your end. And if you only take one thing out of this, let it be that you get out what you put into the search. The more effort you put in, the more you can dedicate to it, the more passion you can infuse into your info, the better your results will be. And the more you'll know about yourself in the process. All of this is kind of self-discovery and allows you to kind of evaluate what you know about jobs, what you want moving forward, and how you can kind of bridge that gap. Again, not with a bridge or a ladder, with stepping stones. So we are just at about 11:30. So if you need to leave, please feel free. I am going to drop a feedback survey in the chat here. If you have a few minutes, please take that survey. I really would like to know what I did well, what you would like to see differently, and how I can improve for next time. The recording of this presentation will be posted online on SuccessWorks' website. And I will also email out the resources doc and the worksheet and the survey again later this afternoon. So you will all have this information in your email box as well. anyone has any questions, you can feel free to drop in the chat or turn your audio on now because we are finished. Let me stop recording.